Hi. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about money and economics. Not like I know what I'm talking about, but I've read a couple different books. Thought I would just share some thoughts. So let's start with this famed book, Capital, by Thomas Piketty. Um, it's sort of it talks about wealth income inequality and the growing problems within the financial system. So the general gist is the rich are getting richer, and the poor are getting poorer. Uh, Even with all the new wealth that technology has created. So uh, what that's saying is that I guess it's sort of a model like this. Say you save up some money and you buy some capital, some that's anything that makes more money from buying it. It's sort of like an investment. So you buy a house, you rent it out. It's your capital. You can make more money off of renting it. Now you get this extra money. What do you do with that? You can buy another house, and so that pretty soon everyone in the neighborhood's renting to you. So that's the capital consolidation. So that's sort of the general process, of how, you can use money to make more money. So if you have lots of money, you are in a good position to make more money. And people that aren't in a good position to make more money, continually go down and down and down the financial track. So I wanted to sort of add two sort of world history examples of different ways of thinking about the uh, legal, economic, financial institution, uh, and not to say that present these as solutions, but just ways of understanding this and how people can start to think of, okay, if this is a real trend, what inherently needs to be changed in the system so this process doesn't become more and more worse, or even if you want to make the argument, well, it's justified, in the long run it all works out, which I'm not saying that, but I could see someone making that argument anyway. So here is one thought. This is from The Silk Roads by Peter Frankopan, page 256 to 57. Islamic societies generally distribute wealth more evenly than Christian counterparts, largely thanks to the very detailed instructions set out by the Quran about legacies, including principles that were positively enlightened by the standards of the day. When it came to the share of women could and should expect from the estates of their fathers or husband, a Muslim woman could expect a be better looked after than her European peer, but this came at the expense of allowing a large-scale wealth to remain within the same family for a long period of time. This, in turn, meant that the gap between the rich and the poor was never as acute as it became in Europe, because money was redistributed and recirculated more widely. These values, to some extent, inhibited growth. The general rule, teaching that stipulations about legacies meant that families found it hard to accumulate capital over successive generations, because inheritance was progressive and egalitarian. In Europe, primogeniture concentrated resources in the hands of one child and paved the way for great fortunes to be built up. So, that's saying that, yeah, there was more equality in sort of medieval Islamic world than there was in the medieval, or what was happening, growing because of primogeniture. And the other example I want to use is the laws and economics of Confucianism. And what this book talks about is, I guess, what we call mortgages. So the idea, or maybe it might be better termed liens in today's world. So say you own a property or a house, some emergency arises, you need some extra money, so you put a lien on your house or whatever, something to borrow money, and if you fail to pay that back, the borrower can confiscate your property. So they had the same process in, you know, old timey England and China going back centuries. But there's a difference. There's the Jian system in the Qing dynasty in China, or the Ming dynasty also, and that's about redeemability. So how much time you have to redeem on that lien. In those cultures, it goes back generations. And the argument the author's making is that it has something to do with what's ingrained into sort of the social values of China. Because China put more emphasis through Confucianism on filial piety, that is, respect for people that are older than you. So that's, age is an important status symbol in those cultures, whereas in Europe, there was more of an emphasis on money. So you could be a rich young man and be more important in Europe, but an old poor man would have more status in China. So they said that what the author's argument is that the general concept is forming and shaping the laws in China. So when they set up the laws of how much time you have to redeem it, it goes back, you can go back generations. In fact, I think they give a couple examples of, say, like a grandson redeeming the Jian, or the mortgage to get back the land to their own ownership rather than sort of renting it out to the owner. Whereas in Europe, way back in the day, if they failed to pay it, you just got evicted. You're out of the system. And of course, as we talk about how wealth concentrates, how that works. Now, of course, a lot of these things, what they're arguing is that the fact that you can concentrate wealth means that you can invest large sums into bigger things that create more growth. But of course, the hard thing is that it creates more poor people, or more people that have to sort of struggle and have less options and less capital. There's less equal distribution. So that's just a couple of those arguments, and this book also talks about that. So I certainly don't have all the answers, but I thought I would just share a couple thoughts, and that's it. Have a good day. Bye.